What's up, Barnhill family, and welcome back to your home for all things combat sports.
Yo.
So, Nick, it was a rare Nurmagomedov loss last night. Now, I know Saeed is not related to Khabib's family, but a great fighter nonetheless. He was the favorite coming in against Jonathan Martinez, and this was a very close fight. Unusual that all three judges saw this one the same. That was probably the biggest surprise to me. All three judges had the first round for Saeed and the second 2 rounds for Jonathan Martinez, giving him that 29-28 victory. But how did you see this fight? Did Saeed get robbed?
When the fight started, Saeed Nurmagomedov looked like a guy who didn't belong in the top 15 of the bantamweights. He looked like he belonged in the top 5. I mean, his striking was insane, and then his grappling and all of the takedowns he was attempting, all of that was really impressive, and I thought it was going to be a quick night in the office for him. But Martinez is a tough dude, and I think he came there, and almost surprised himself with how well he did, weathering the storm in the first round, and then collecting himself and competing in the second round, and then coming in full force in the third round and able to steal it, get the victory. I feel like that's a big feather in his cap. To beat anybody with the last name Nurmagomedov is one of the most difficult things to do in this era of the sport. So I feel like Jonathan Martinez is going to ride this wave right into the top 15 and potentially be a force to be reckoned with. But, the judges got it right, and they were all on board with the 29-28 decision for Martinez.
Yeah, it's a very rare thing when you see all three judges give the exact same score and the exact same rounds got the exact same score. And I agree with you. I think they did get it right, and I think that Saeed has got all the skills to be a top 5 guy, even contend for a belt. Like you said, in that first round when he came out, he looked spectacular. He was throwing nasty combinations with bad intentions, good straight punches, and finishing with head kicks. I mean, throwing question mark kicks, spinning attacks. Those spinning back fists were really nasty, and some of them connected, but Jonathan Martinez is one tough kid, man. Even that submission attempt, that was a deep rear naked choke attempt that Saeed had on Martinez, and he was able to weather the storm, fight the hands, stay disciplined, and get out of it. So credit to him. Now, with regards to the second round, because I do agree the third round went to Martinez because of the cage control. Both guys had a pretty serious submission attempt in the third round, so I think that was kind of a wash. I also think that the striking was a bit of a wash because it was pretty equal for both men. So the differentiator in the third round was that cage control that Martinez had, and he did hold Saeed Nurmagomedov against the cage for the better part of 2 minutes in that last round, so I did have to give him that round. So now looking to the second round, which I believe was the closest, honestly, I could see a case being made for Saeed, and if you had it 29-28 for Saeed Nurmagomedov, that's not crazy. That could have certainly been a scorecard. That's a very acceptable score. But I think given the fact that Saeed got the takedown, but then Martinez got right back up from the takedown and essentially no damage was done. So that scored for Nurmagomedov, but it wasn't really that convincing of a moment in the fight. But then if you look towards the end of the round, Martinez started to take over with the striking. He got Saeed against the cage. He landed some really nice elbows, which one of the commentators, I think it may have even been Paul Felder, said, I think that Saeed's nose is broken. He looks like he's breathing out of his mouth. I know I'm paraphrasing at this point, but it did certainly look like that was a definitive point in the fight, that the tide started to change for Saeed. I don't know if he gassed out necessarily or if his nose may have been broken and he was having trouble breathing, but I think a few of those elbows, a few of those knees, and then that time spent against the cage also swayed the second round, at least for me, in Martinez's favor, and it was a razor-close decision, but I think the judges got it exactly right, not just the score, but round by round got it right as well.
Yeah, it was a very competitive match, and I think that, the shot selection that Martinez chose to throw up against the cage was perfect. He wasn't overthrowing and losing position, and he was waiting for the right moments to throw these elbows inside the clinch. And, everybody knows that if you're up against the cage, you only have one way out, really, and that's by the sides or, I guess maybe you could consider a shot from there, but it's really unlikely. So you've got to pick a side to go to, and he had Saeed trapped pretty well. I think the pace that both of them brought in the first round made it more difficult for both of them to have the same energy towards the end. Not everybody has the gas tank of Merab Dvalishvili, but the way that he trapped Saeed in there and was able to throw those elbows and really bust him up and do a lot of damage caused the oohs and ahs to really probably weigh in the judges' minds a bit when they hear the crowd going crazy for somebody who's probably supposed to lose just because on paper he's going against somebody named Nurmagomedov and they don't really know who this guy is. But, it's kind of like that Volkanovski-Islam thing. Everybody thought Volk was going to get destroyed, and then he comes out there and performs way better than you'd expect. So everybody in the crowd starts to sway towards the underdog, essentially. Martinez rose to the occasion. He was the underdog, but he definitely pulled the crowd on his side at the end. and I think that was partially what helped him win that second round. And obviously the third round was really competitive as well, but he came on super strong at the end of that round. So, you know, I always say these fight nights are always stacked up with great fights. You might not know these fighters by name. You might not recognize them as well as you recognize some of the pay-per-view stars, but tune in for these fight nights because these guys have something to prove, and they're always trying to work their way up the rankings. And oftentimes they've got some of the best, most talented fighters in a division that you haven't heard about yet on display. And I think Martinez has arrived at bantamweight, and Said Nurmagomedov proved that even in defeat, he's absolutely a force to be reckoned with at bantamweight.
And it's such an excellent point because I think both of those guys last night could have been thrown in with any bantamweight on the roster and would have a fighting chance at winning on any given day. So that shows you how deep the roster really is at bantamweight, especially when you have a guy who's outside of the top 15 in Martinez fighting a guy who's just eclipsed the top 15 in Said, who I think he was number 14 or maybe number 13 going into last night. The fact that one of them will not be in the top 15 come Tuesday is pretty insane, and it speaks to how good bantamweight really is.
Yeah, we've said it on this channel that bantamweight has taken over lightweight as the most competitive, most, stacked division in all of mixed martial arts. They're proving it in 2023. These guys are coming out there night after night and just showing us how much better they are than every other division. So everybody else needs to catch up.
No doubt about it. Thanks for watching this video, guys. We're your hub for all things combat sports. If that's your jam, we appreciate a subscribe and a like on the video, and drop us a comment down below. We'll see you next time.
Peace.